All right. It's now 6 past. I think we can start. Uh, so we encourage everyone to mute themselves if you're not speaking, please. All right. So hello everyone. Welcome to our session today for our journal club session. So we have French interpretation, and so we ask everyone to speak slowly to allow for interpretation. And let me just share my screen shortly. So feel free to introduce yourself in the chat. Tell us about yourself, your name, any institution that you're a part of, uh, if any country that you're calling in from, and some of your expectations for the conversation. So, uh, just a reminder that we have interpretation, so you can click on the globe and choose either French or English. And we encourage everyone, when you're now sharing your contribution, to speak slowly and be mindful to allow for interpretation. So we hope this to be as interactive as possible. So the Journal Club, which we bring in together, aims for all of us to work towards ensuring better health outcomes through through really thinking of and discussing some of the nexus between climate change and health. As you're aware, like in most areas and in most institutions, this conversation is just starting. And so we hope, as we continue learning from each other across the continent, we'll be able to to learn from each other and to learn from different experiences that are there from different contexts, and to also share ideas, share some of the research that's being done. So this is really a space for all of us to co-learn and to co-create together as we work towards building more resilient health systems, and also to explore opportunities for collaboration.
But it's difficult to achieve the 10% body weight loss goal, and even harder to maintain with lifestyle change alone. Studies have shown
We kindly ask those who are not muted to mute themselves, please.
programs like Weight Watchers,
Thank you. All right. So for those who are just joining, we're just doing the introductions. Feel free to introduce yourself in the chat. So to start us off, so today the focus of the Journal Club is really discussing the declaration from the just ended COP meeting. So this was the first COP meeting where there was actually a day that focused primarily that's focused on climate and health, which is really a step in the right direction because it shows that health is also coming in on the agenda of the climate change conversation. Um, So the idea for today was for all of us to discuss and share our ideas, particularly to start thinking about how can we move from these discussions to actually practical uh, practical actions and to really working towards building resilient health systems. So for the benefit of those who may not have had a chance to look at the documents, I'll just do a quick recap of the some of the key points for the document. So really the main objectives for it was to really look at how we can have promote a comprehensive response to address climate change, and that's inclusive of all sectors, inclusive of mental health, psychosocial well-being, loss of traditional medicinal knowledge, loss of livelihoods and culture, uh, climate-induced displacement and migration. And I think for Africa, particularly, the loss of traditional medicinal knowledge is one area that's also key, looking at our colonial history. Uh, so we look forward to your thoughts on this. Then some of the key objectives were to look at how we can address some of the inequalities within and amongst countries, building on the work that already countries are on around achievement of sustainable developmental goals. Then another objective was to look at curbing emissions and reducing waste in the health sector. So really looking at how the health sector is contributing to climate change and also coming up with ways of really working on cutting down the waste that are from the health sector and really reducing our carbon footprint that are there across the supply chains and across all the processes that are important in the health sector eventually to allow delivery. Then another objective was really to look at trans and interdisciplinary research across sectoral collaboration. So already, I think in this space we have, as you can see from the introductions, with people from different sectors and disciplines, and really, and I think that's part of, and already that's very important as we continue one of the going on with the conversations in terms of working together. That's there. So those are some of the objectives that are there. Then in terms of like the question on financing, the document talks about encouragement of really more deliberate investments in climate and health from not only domestic budgets, but looking at multi-developmental banks, health financing institutions, private sector, bilateral development agencies. And I think some of you on the call who might have been joining some of the conversations have heard like some people talking about climate reparations, where they were thinking about also bringing in the financing aspect, considering how like particularly sub-Saharan Africa is being affected by climate change, but who did not was not responsible for most of the emissions comparatively. Then another issue is to look at really thinking about priorities around financing when encouraging finance providers, development banks, um, to strengthen synergies between the climate and health portfolios and also support country-led projects and programs. Then sharing lessons, and best practices on financing around climate change and health. Then improving monitoring, evaluation, and transparency. So an important point around accountability. So these are like some of the some of the key areas that were touched on in terms of the document. And I think we encourage everyone to take a look at the document if you haven't done, to so that we continue having the conversation, and so that we can also learn from what's being done in your country. And because I know there are already people here who are working on around looking at policies that looks at adaptation and health gains from mitigation, really working with vulnerable people. Those are some of the objectives. And there's some people who are really working on One Health and really looking at some of the linkages and planetary health. So it's also mentioned in the document, and really looking into the contribution for healthy populations in terms of resilient communities, looking at all sectors from food, agriculture, water, sanitation, housing, and looking at resilient health systems, which can anticipate and also adapt to some of the climate sensitive diseases and some of the risks that come with it. So this is sort of an overview of the document that's there, and I think I'll share the link. Um, I'll share the link to the document. So it's just the key points from the document, and we encourage everyone to look at the document. So the information that was on the slides is just like on the first 3 pages of the document that we're going to discuss, so that at least everyone will be on the same page there. So yeah, I'll hand over to Ashim.
Thank you very much, Nisha, for this recap. Will it be possible for me to share my screen as well? Thank you. Thank you very much, and very welcome everyone who was able to join us. My name is Hashim Mpati. I'm from Benin, but currently joining from Bamako in Mali. I would like just to add a few words to what you've just to us, so that as we are a small group, we can engage in conversation. So it is worth mentioning that this is the first time that health is being provided such a space within the COP meetings. In COP28, a full day was dedicated to health, and that has not happened before. We are having those global conversations, those global meetings, because we are in the face of challenges that are global, that involve all of us. But so far, we have not been very successful in finding ways out, and things are only worsening, as we can all notice. And this can be seen by the tip of the iceberg that you are seeing on your screen. We are talking of climate change, because the COP declaration is much more on climate change negotiations. But climate change is only one of the many crises that we are currently going through now. And it is very important to not have a tunnel vision on climate change, but considering the whole crisis that we are currently going through as a global community. We can tackle the crisis the way they are, but we can also go deep into their roots and courageously tackle them. We are in the face of global challenges, as you can see on the tip of the iceberg, and we need to talk. And another problem arises from that talking, because we have three asymmetries in terms of climate. For instance, we have asymmetry in contribution. We do not contribute the same amount to the problem. We have asymmetry in impact. So the impact are not felt the same way around the world. And finally, we have asymmetry in power. And our discussion today is to find a way to have a kind of balance, because what we are going through is threatening our lives, the biodiversity system on which we rely as human beings, and we need to talk, but differently, because the way we have been talking, the global cooperation, the global cooperation so far has led us to this crisis, and we need a shift to that. And that's why our topic today was, what are the low-hanging fruits that Sub-Saharan African can contribute or have from this declaration. Those are just my preliminary thought, and I hope that it will stimulate the conversation that I wish reach to all of us. Thank you very much, Tinashe.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so I've posted the document in the chat so that everyone sort of is aware of the document that we are making reference to. So essentially, the slides that we present were just sort of the key text on the first 3 pages of the document for the benefit of those who have had the chance to read, so that at least they can sort of be aware of what the text is going to be the discussion on. So yeah, so like as we mentioned, we really want this to be an open discussion, particularly looking at some of the low-hanging fruit. So if you would like to contribute, feel free to raise your hand and share your thoughts, because the idea for the Journal Club is really to all learn from each and everyone on the call. So we really want to hear your voices. So please raise your hand if you would like to speak, and yeah, and we give you a turn to, and yeah, and we can ask you to unmute and speak.
So I can start.
And
Maybe?
as yeah,
So,
you can go ahead.
yes, I mentioned power asymmetry, and this club is also a space where we can support each other, share our knowledge, our ideas, and how we can move forward as a scientific community. I don't know if we are only scientific community, but mainly. Yeah, so that's just what I wanted to say to kickstart the conversation. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And yeah, and I think as we're waiting for people to think about their contributions, I just wanted to sort of share like some of the low-hanging fruits that we can actually think about, that's in line with like some of the key objectives that are there towards climate resilient and low carbon health systems and equitable systems. So you'd find in some countries there have been some interventions that have not been framed as necessarily climate change and health related initiatives, but they have a contribution towards the direction that we are taking. So, for example, there have been projects to implement solar energy, particularly in rural health centers that do not have access to electricity, and in those communities already, transitioning to clean energy in itself is a way of really thinking about low carbon and sustainable. And I think some of the things that we can do in countries that have already started embarking on this project is to amplify how and do research and amplify like how this is actually positively contributing to resilient health systems, so as to start encouraging others to start thinking about clean energy and really reducing our carbon footprint within the health systems and also across the supply chain. So yeah, Edna, go ahead, feel free to unmute and speak.
Thanks so much for welcoming me. My name is Edna Chandel from Tanzania Child Welfare. I'm from Tanzania. I go through your presentation and I say thanks for what you have presented. Let me talk about energy transition, for instance, in our country, my home country, Tanzania. I think, yeah, you mentioned a lot of things, including political instability and so forth. But for us to transit energy, to clean energy, we need to do some researches. You know what? Most of Tanzania population live in peripheral and peripheral of the peripheral. So we have few who are living in urban centers. So, and those who are living in peripheral areas, they mostly use charcoal and the energy which is not user friendly. So, in the process, we need, first of all, to do a research to see what exactly strategy are we going to put in place so that we will meet or will reach our goal to clean energy. But secondly, the availability of the service. When we talk about clean energy, we mean to use alternative energy such as gas or what we call in Tanzania mkaa mbadala as alternative. First of all, it is not available in those peripheral areas. But second thing is economic power. Majority, they don't have any economic power to buy the product. So it's a good idea that we want to transit. We want to move from using unfriendly, environmental unfriendly energy to clean energy, but some efforts is needed, and that to be, and if we want to succeed, it needed to be a collective action from government and other stakeholders. And as you know that climate change is not an issue for one country. It's a global issue. So because it is a global issue, so we need even to make it global. How do we transit? How do we go about that so that we will make our environment clean, so that we save our health, we save our generation, and we make sure that everything will be in place. For instance, now, where as organizations we start a lot of projects concerning microforests, for instance. So the government trying to support NGOs to have pieces of land to plant trees so that to overcome or to mitigate climate change. But still, the problem is we don't have enough funds to facilitate the projects. So we are here to discuss. Let us think about financing. You talked about that. Maybe you can help us, or we can discuss here as a team. So how we can join as Africans, because we are the one who are affected with the situation. So we need to collaborate with collective action to take an action that will be in a very, very positive results, so that everything will be okay. Thanks so much for time. Thanks so much for giving this chance to say what I have.
Thank you so much, Edna, and really sharing from your experiences from Tanzania. And yeah, and we encourage everyone who would like to comment to raise your hand. And you really bring up an important question to all of us, like as a continent, what strategies can we come up with in terms of really financing the transition that we're talking about, really financing our goals towards climate resilient health systems. And yeah, I was wondering, like on the core, are the people who have been really working and doing research or thinking around that in terms of improving domestic finance and also looking at ways of rethinking financing globally? Because as you're aware, I think like I'm from Zimbabwe, and one of the key things that I can say probably, and others can relate in their countries, is we are highly dependent on our health sectors are highly dependent on donor funding, particularly for a lot of disease control programs and all. So, and that sort of again, those reliance on donor funding results in some of the priorities really being determined by available funding, but not necessarily by the priorities that are very important in that country. So I'll be yeah looking forward to learn from all of you in terms of the question that Edna posed in terms of how how can we together really start thinking about financing when we're talking about about really working towards resilient health systems and also equitable society. And feel free to share some of the examples that you have seen that have been working, like in your work or in your communities that others from other countries can learn from. I think the beauty of right now we have different countries on the call. We have Uganda, we have Zimbabwe, we have Tanzania, we have Benin, we have Nigeria. Yes, so this is to just to name a few. So yeah, this is an opportunity for us to learn from each other to start thinking about how do we move away from just having documents and declarations, but to actions and what efforts are you doing, like the efforts in different, like in the different countries and the different work that you're doing. So feel free to unmute or use the chat if you'd like to share your lessons. Go ahead, Kevin. Yeah, Abdi, Kevin. I hope I pronounced your name correctly. You can speak. Yeah, go ahead, Kevin. So can people hear Kevin? Oh, it's my network, sorry. Abdi Kevin, we can't hear you. Can you hear us? Yes, go ahead. Igisaver, I hope I pronounced your name correctly. Feel free to, I think if you'd like to speak, feel free to unmute and speak. Yep, go ahead.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Chair. So first of all, I just want to understand the context in which we're looking at this climate financing. At which level exactly do you want us to give you answers on? Is it at community levels? Is it at international levels, or is it at provincial? At which level exactly?
At any level that you like, based on your experience, that's there. So the idea is to really think about ultimately how can we have sustainable financing at different levels. So you'd find like at international level, some people are talking about reparations, then at community at national level, some people are talking about prioritizing governments prioritizing financing at national level, then looking into private public partnerships and yeah. So any in terms of like if you can share from any experience, like some of the recommendations that all of us can start thinking about at any level, because like people are different working in different spaces, some are working in communities, some are working at government level, and some are also part of international organizations doing advocacy. So any level from your experience would be helpful for us to learn from each other.
All right, thank you very much. Okay, that is well understood. All right, so from my experience, since I come from an NGO perspective, I work for an NGO, Elevate Trust. So we promote climate action particularly for young people. So we seek to make young people at the forefront of climate action. So what some of the models that we're using from our space is what we call the cause-related marketing, where we partner with corporates and businesses, and they donate a portion of their proceeds to our initiatives, so to our green initiatives. So that is part of their ESG, or a part of their community service. So this has been helping them in terms of their brand recognition for a green cause, because if you look at most corporates now, they are moving towards environmental sustainability. So what we then do is that these financial especially financial institutions, what we do with them is that they provide funding towards a green initiative. Then in return, we give them service related to, for example, training their staff on how they can be sustainable. Because if you look at even the new model of the 4Cs, where we're looking at now we need corporates to have, now corporates are now mandated, particularly to have a green push within their systems. that is, like now governments are looking at what, as a corporate, what are you looking at as far as promoting the green narrative is concerned. So it's more of a equal partnership where they are providing us finance and then we're helping them. We're helping their staff and their institutions to become more green. I hope that was clear enough. Thank you very much.
Thank you. That was clear. It actually made me start thinking about people talk about corporate social responsibilities, and I think that made me think about how that can be, how that can also strengthen in terms of like at community level, primary healthcare level, like community health level in terms of like financing and supporting health institutions from the transition, and really looking at for example, like the issue that's been brought up in the chat about like how some of the solutions are hard to really implement in some contexts. I think these are some of the like the ways, for example, like some of the financing can from companies that are within those communities. With some of them, some of the companies may actually be contributing to the emissions. So looking at ways that they can also contribute to some of the efforts to build resilient health systems would be quite great. For example, funding or financing the like some of the transition to solar energy in rural community in different communities, particularly those who need those finances. So yeah, thank you so much for sharing some of the work that that Elevate is doing in yeah. And others, feel free to share your thoughts. Because really, I think the most important question that we have is we're trying to think about how can we, because when we are discussing a lot of these issues, when you're looking them in the document, sometimes they appear like they're very hard to achieve. But I think when we start discussing like some of the examples that have been given right now in terms of financing of some of the partnerships that are happening, we start seeing that actually we can start having achievable goals in different in different aspects or different depending on like your area of experience and your area of focus. So yeah, so we look forward to hear from others and in terms of your experience. And it doesn't necessarily have to be financing. So it can even look at other aspects like One Health, like planetary health. It can even look at energy transition, and it can even look at how you are building more resilient and equitable communities. So feel free to unmute, and we look forward to learn from you. So Ashim, I'm sorry to put you on the spotlight. I was wondering to hear your thoughts. You mentioned the issue about power dynamics, and that was very important. So I was wondering, like, in terms of your reflections on that, particularly with some of the concerns raised by Kevin, for example, in terms of some of the solutions that are being proposed may not be relevant to to Africa. Yeah, looking forward to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, thank you very much, Tinashe. So this is obvious that in global cooperation, power plays a lot. It's probably the only thing that work in negotiation. That's probably why we know what's wrong with whatever we are doing about climate change and its impact on health, on human health, on planet health. but we are not doing what we should do about it. And my point here was that on power dynamic, we have asymmetry in ideational asymmetry on idea, which idea is stronger than the others, just because of where it comes from. So we have ideational asymmetry. We have technical asymmetry, because even the climate science, the roots of that science are tied to a particular region of the world. And we also have in all this negotiation financial asymmetry. You have countries that have a lot of resources, financial resources, and even within the global cooperation governance body, they are the one that have the most powerful voices and that talk the most. So I imagine this type of space, our space here, as the type of space where we can work on, and having this kind of discussion also, we can work on exploring the gaps that we have in influencing the global cooperation, and how as a small community here, and with the connection that we have, we could learn from each other, fill those gaps, at least the ideational, the technical gaps, and see how we can move forward from there. So that was just my thoughts on the power asymmetry, because even when you go to the COPs, not everyone goes everywhere. They are rooms where real things are discussed, and that's already something. And when you go to those rooms, I remember there is a famous comparison that people make. If you take, for instance, Ethiopia and Germany, they have average the same population, but at COP, Ethiopia was represented. I don't remember which COP, but it is a very recent one. Ethiopia was represented by two delegation members, and Germany was represented by I think dozens. I don't remember the exact number, but it was almost many dozens anyway. So you can see power at play, and if you see those spaces where you have people discussing, negotiating with those balances in numbers, and you know that those kind of negotiation, you have just two people from a country that will keep talking the whole day and get everybody tired, and it is at night at 2 a.m. that the big things will be discussed and decided. And if you are only two, you cannot take the rhythm. So those are strategies that are used in global negotiation spaces. Not only there, in other spaces where we have to come together as global community. Those are power plays that we can hope to fill. Otherwise, the problem with that is that if imagine that we in Sub-Saharan Africa or other global South community have the power that the global North has, and we know that we will always have our differences, even within a country, within a family, we always have our differences. But if we have the same goal, the same global good, the common goods goal, which is on thriving together, I feel like those spaces will be much more equitable, just, and deliver more equitable and just outcomes than what we have till now. So even the decision that are taken there, we do not have power on enforcing those decisions. So those are my thoughts about the power, and I was expecting this space to be a space where on that specific topic, that health declaration from the COP, the past COP, we could be able to discuss more thoroughly how we can position ourselves as individual, as community, to do something at our scale about it, and to start like this will maybe a first discussion, and later on we'll have more space to have a deeper discussion, deeper action. So those are my what I was thinking about our discussion, and I'll end with with a quote that I will share in the chat as well, that I've seen today. I will just share it first and read it later, and that will be so where will I? So it's, don't sit back and read and think and wait for to have achieved the perfect theory to develop the perfect strategy for action. Get out there, interfere, talk to people, try like all heck to change bits and bobs of the systems that surround you. As you'll try, you'll learn, and as you learn, your chances of success will expand extraordinarily. So it is a quote for Julia Steinberger, and that was what I think this space, our space here, could be in discussing that very subject that we had to discuss about. I've been long, but that was my thought. Thank you very much for listening.
Oh, yeah, that was great. Like in terms of, I really like how you really talked about the importance of really like putting our differences aside and really working together with one goal, and actually build power in that, so that at least when we're going into those spaces, we can negotiate uh, things that will prioritize our interests. And I think that's the vision, I guess. That's the vision of also of how we can utilize this space, looking at how from different countries, from different experiences, from different lessons, like on different levels, we can always not only share but exchange ideas, build capacity. So that's why we are encouraging dialogue, like from everyone. So because here we are all like, there's no one expert, but we want everyone. But we really believe the idea is we can learn a lot from each other. Not only learn a lot from each other, but we can also see opportunities of collaborations, see opportunities of building power that can help us in terms of now navigate some of the power dynamics in those spaces that are there, and also see how we can work towards even like long-term goals of dismantling and supporting some of the actions that are people doing. So thank you so much for that contribution. Yeah, we are left with about 10 minutes. So yeah, any other thoughts and reflections people may have?
All right. Thank you very much for the session. I really appreciate it that we're here. So I will say thank you, the organizers, for this. I just want to emphasize on the importance of collaborations. especially with all the climate interested individuals as well as corporates and organizations. So that being said, I'll just leave my contacts. So because we're also planning an event. We have two events actually that are coming up. First one is it's a debate competition for high scholars. Then the next one we're also planning. We have a forum. It's called the Hand in Hand Initiative. So this one is focusing on food, the transformation of food systems in Africa. So we're looking at the thematic areas like climate smart agriculture, indigenous knowledge systems, mechanization. So this one will be in collaboration with the Food and Agriculture Organization, the Southern Africa Regional Office, as well as the Ministry of Agriculture, Zimbabwe. So I'll just leave out my details. Those who are interested, please get in touch in the chat. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And yeah, it's great that you are involving like high school students. And I think these conversations need to happen at multiple levels. And that's very important. And yeah, it just made me think about how we would try to have a discussion in the House, like with some of my old colleagues. And up to now, some would express that they don't know the link between climate and health. So yeah, so I think it's important to continue these conversations and to even and part of the reason why we come up with some text is also an opportunity for us to also build our capacity as individuals so that when we are involved in the conversations with other people, we can be in a position to respond to some of the questions that are there from learning from each other. And also we can be able to suggest solutions that we have also learned from other people in our different areas that we are working with. So really excited for people who have been sharing their thoughts and we've been sharing some of the work that they're doing and exploring opportunities for collaborations. Yeah. So yeah, we still have a few more minutes. So if you'd like to, so feel free to unmute and share your thoughts and reflections. So the idea is for us to have it as a monthly conversation. And so we're going to reach out with information on creating sort of a platform where people can also suggest some of the key text that we can. So we understand like the text that we used today was a bit broad because really when you look at the declaration, it covers many aspects, and each area in itself is actually broad, and we can have conversations, more conversations targeted into that. And I really appreciate when Edna brought up the issue of financing, and I think we can think about having a session that looks at now financing and really looking at like yeah, highlighting like some of the suggestions that Iki brought up in terms of the work that they're doing. So yeah, so what I can emphasize that this is your space, each and every person who's here. So we're really creating a platform from all of us to learn from each other. And so even sharing some of the resources or texts that you may have so that we continue building capacity, our own individual capacity, and also so that we continue really exploring opportunities for collaboration. So I don't know if there are any people who would like to share their final reflections and thoughts in the last 5 minutes. And that can include any recommendations on like a particular area that you'd want us to focus in the next conversation, like in terms of really build more on? Yeah, Christopher, thanks for joining. I think when we are having the finance conversation, we'd really want to hear your experiences on yeah, as a health economist. Yeah. So we really hope to learn from each other in terms of some of our experiences. So I don't know. So since what do people think about having the the next session build more on health financing, considering it's like one of the key things that have come up, or any other, like any suggestions on what key thematic area that we can actually build on more in the next session? Go ahead, Christopher.
Hello, everyone. Glad to make it here. I'm sorry I came in a little bit late. I just had one question. Will the recording be shared so they can catch up? And yeah, regarding health financing, I'll definitely be glad to share some insights. Thank you very much. Back to you.
All right, thanks, Christopher, for that. Yes, we'll share the recording. Yeah, the recording afterwards. So I think we have a follow-up email where we share like a link to find out if you're interested in joining like a Google group. So the idea is we also want to co-create the next sessions so that to continue having the conversations so that people can share the experiences. So we look forward to hearing most of you from you and some of the areas and if you have any suggestions on some of the key things that we can continue building on, some of the articles that we can use to kickstart the conversation, that would be greatly appreciated. Yeah, so we share the recording and also additional information. So I don't know if Hashim, if you have any final remarks before we end today's conversation.
So just thank you, Tinashe, for bringing all of us together here and having these kind of discussions. I think everyone doing the right thing. Ultimately, we will be more and more, and we will have more and more impact. Thank you very much.
Right. Yeah, thank you. So thank you everyone for joining the conversation and for taking time from your busy schedules. And we really appreciate all like some of the lessons that we have learned from all of you. And we look forward to seeing you in the next conversation. And I hope we'll continue with this. You'll be able to join the next meeting as we continue really creating this space to yeah to really discuss how we can move towards action. So yeah, have a good day, everyone.